friends, I am Sara from the Green Maya Project, and today I have a special guest. This is Russell, who's here with me. Russell, I work with. He is an archaeologist, works in archaeology and culture, the Mayan culture and history. And I have worked with Russell for quite a few years now because he knows what's up. And I really trust him with my clients, and so I'm inviting Russell to join us on our Day of the Dead retreat. So I wanted to invite Russell here to ask him to learn a bit, to share with you who he is and his history and his part of living and working here in Yucatan. So Russell, welcome.
Thank you so much, Sara, for having me.
Thank you for coming. So maybe let's start with a little bit of your background.
Yes.
Your history here, maybe your family.
Yes. Right. So 3/4 of my life experience I had spent it in the Yucatan state, and I come from a Mayan descendant family who both were farmers. So I was into the Mayan heritage pretty much all my life, and it's a pride for me to share this with my clients, and I'm passionate about that, about the Mayan culture in general. And I had spent 3/4 of my life experience, in Yucatan, Mexico, and a couple of years in the U.S. And I'm very passionate about what's going on around the world, about the Mayan heritage, what's happening, around the world. And with both combined, I had to share that experience, and my clients are so happy about it.
Nice,
So
very nice. I know, me too. I love that part that we can talk about world affairs. Sometimes with Russell,
right.
We can compare
Yes.
and compare the two. So let's see, next question. I've prepared some questions to keep it flowing a little easier. So you kind of answered this already, but what really inspired you to dedicate your life to studying and sharing the Mayan culture and history?
Well, I actually, studied in the University of Yucatan, and I became an English teacher, but over the time, I kind of felt pretty much drawn into, sharing my life experience as a Mayan descendant one. And that part of my legacy as a Mayan descendant had, somehow, like in a positive way, had pushed me into the acknowledging more and more, and to be later shared to the clients that I have. Yeah.
Nice. So speaking of your clients, what do you enjoy most about guiding the guest through these unique special places?
Well, what I've been doing since years, is that letting my clients who come from around the world be aware of that maybe what they heard about Mexico is not really what is happening in Mexico. And that's what I feel with proud in sharing to them what's going on, not only in the Yucatan, but also in what is happening in Mexico. And it's not what it's been, been shared, from other, media means.
Yeah. And
I really enjoy that. And when I see the clients, they really appreciate and treasure and they said, "Thank you, Russell, for telling us, what's happening in your country." Because where we come from, we heard different things. Yes.
Yeah, that is a sad truth about the
Yes.
media making Mexico this dangerous, scary
Right.
place. And then you come here. I mean, in many parts of Mexico are very, very safe. Most of Mexico is
Right.
very safe. In fact, it's the opposite, that there are very few places
Right.
that you wouldn't go to.
Exactly.
And it's kind of the opposite in the United States. But we'll talk about
Right.
that later.
Right.
So, wanting to talk about your archaeological experience, I mentioned I would like for you to join us
Yes.
for the Day of the Dead.
Right. Yes.
We're taking a trip down to Etna,
Okay.
and I wanted you to join us and
Thank you.
sharing that magical place with us.
Right. Yes.
But we'll talk a little bit about the archaeological sites in general,
Yes.
and then we'll kind of hone in on Etna. We'll get your feedback
Right.
about that site. But so the Maya built great cities
Right.
in Yucatan.
Yes.
So how long have the Maya lived here, started building here in Yucatan?
Okay. Actually, the entire Yucatan Peninsula, which comprehends, 3 states, and Campeche, Yucatan, and Quintana Roo. So that's what we refer to as Peninsula of Yucatan, where the Mayans once, settled down and thrived and successfully reached their Mayan achievements. So we're looking at a whole time frame. It's around 2,200 years. That's what we have since it began, and when they found themselves, their downfall.
Of the ancient cities.
Right. Yes.
Because
yes.
the Maya are still here,
Exactly,
alive
exactly,
and
exactly.
well, and
Exactly. I mean, what would have probably put these Maya tribes into what I meant as its downfall? It was because they would have run out of their natural resources, water and the forest, because they need a lot of construction material to resurface, the temples and buildings. So they need to, to chop hundreds of thousands of trees every season, probably every 3, 4, or 5 years. So that over the time, as an outcome, brought them into their downfall. And we're looking at 1400s AD, and 2.5 centuries later, Spaniards arrived. And but as you have mentioned and said before, the Maya descendants, over the time, we're still here. We're still here. Yes.
nice. So you said the Mayas established here like 2,200 years ago.
Exactly.
So a long time ago.
Long time ago.
So what's the oldest Maya city here in the Yucatan Peninsula? What was
Okay.
the first one?
So actually, there are a couple of them. I mean, we cannot say only one, because they were contemporary, pretty much the same. We could call for Izamal, for example, Izamal in the Yucatan, Acanque. We have also Acanque, and we also have Cibichaltun, and even Etna from Campeche. I mean, for example, Etna dates back 600 BC. And these other sites that I had mentioned from the Yucatan, it's about Izamal is the earliest one out of the other 2, because dates back 750 BC.
BC.
So
Wow.
most of them, they're like from 700 to 600 BC, and 3 cities are in the Yucatan.
Wow.
So it's pretty much contemporary cities, they were actually being part of the trading allies, using their long causeways, which would allow them to interchange, knowledge plus and then trading goods, Yes.
Right, because they
Right.
were trading with the other Mayas that were coming from more from the south, right?
Right. Yes.
Right. Very cool. So, speaking of Etna, since we're going to visit
Yeah.
it,
Right.
what is unique about Etna compared to the other archaeological
Well,
sites?
it was the gateway from an indigenous tribe that would later enter the Yucatan state, and I meant about the Itzais. Itzais were the groups who entered later well-known place Chichen Itza. So actually, Etna would have been derived from the indigenous name Itzna, which means the hometown of this particular group. So it was the gate, the access, and they came there, and but they had a problem because they hadn't had easy access to reach freshwater cenotes over there.
Ah,
So
because
that
it's
would-
too far south.
Exactly, and that would have been the reason why they moved into the Puc area, and they also had the same challenge until they found later Chichen Itza, which was surrounded by many, many cenotes, and they were happier, and they stayed there.
They had water.
Of course.
Oh, that's super interesting. I didn't know that was kind of the way in, and then because they were looking for the resources
Right.
is what ended up
Right.
becoming Chichen Itza.
Exactly, and this is supported by an important amount of indigenous tribe. I mean, the trades such as pottery, and their stone carvings, along the way. So that had been considered part of the physical evidence that they really entered from that particular city.
From Etzna into Chichen
Exactly.
Itza because they would have the same kind of materials and
Exactly.
tools and
Exactly.
unique pieces.
Exactly. Right.
Very cool.
Very cool.
Very cool. So, this is a good question that I find. So, why do you believe it's important to hire a guide, an archaeological eso,
Right.
guide, as opposed to trying to see the site by yourself or maybe just reading the plaques about what it is? What is the benefit of hiring a guide to visit these ancient sites?
Well, it's very important and different because when you hire a native, especially a native Yucatan guide,
Native.
yes,
Uh-huh.
he would, he would share to you what his life experience has been all about in relation to the Mayan traditions that all these guides had inherited over the time. I'm not saying that you could also hire another Mexican, maybe from Mexico City, which is good too, but I would say if you could hire a native Yucatan guide, that will be different in relation to the experience, the history background that this one they're gonna share to you. And because we have most of the clients that I work for, they always had hired, like me in advance, and then I have heard from them for these groups that had been in other parts of the world and had shared to me, Russell, I've been somewhere else and I was just reading on plaques and reading on the media, but you know what? It's not the same. It's not the same. So I'm thankful that I heard from my wife that we should share a tour guide, a native tour guide.
Absolutely. I
Yes.
completely agree. You get more of the authentic experience and really through a local's eyes.
Exactly.
You know the history. It's
Exactly.
been passed down through your family and the
Exactly.
stories and the fables and
Exactly.
everything behind it. Whereas someone just going into an archaeological.
Right.
Why can't I say this word right now? You're not going to get that insider's view,
Exactly.
that inside perspective.
Right. Yes.
So I completely agree. Hire a guide. Hire Russell. He's here in Yucatan, so anytime you come to Yucatan, you can hire Russell. Okay, so speaking about culture, I'm hosting a Day of the Dead retreat or
Right.
journey. It's more of
Yes.
a journey to learn the culture, the real culture of it. And it's different here, slightly different here in Yucatan compared to the rest of Mexico
Right.
because they have adopted their own version,
Right.
Hanal Pishan.
Right.
So can you, for our guests who may be new to the cultural experience, what are the differences and what is the significance of Hanal Pishan?
Well, Hanal Pishan is a Yucatan ingrained both Catholic and Mayan tradition, and it's, as you had mentioned, it's perfectly right. The experience from Hanal Pishan is very different compared to the rest of Mexico. because the rest of Mexico, they're pretty much have an idea that it's related to what in America it's called the Halloween, because both start on the same date. But with that being said, I'm gonna go back to Yucatan. So this is an ingrained tradition that is a time as a local people we spend with our beloved ones that they had been, gone, and it's a family experience. So people come from place to place to be together, and we share special ceremonies. Like one perfect ceremony example will be sitting on a table, and then you have your cross. That's why I began explaining that this is a blending. This is a mixture from the Catholicism with the Mayan ancient traditions. So we use the cross. We place pictures, and we actually arrange special dishes for that particular date of joy. With our family, and that's the time when we prepare the well-known, renowned pibes that every Yucatan people will know about it. Every year they will have in their mind like, oh, I'm just waiting for November because we're gonna have pibes
Pibes.
in the Yucatan.
And we're actually going to have it on the retreat as well. We're going to have that experience.
Yes.
So.
Right. So that's something we actually emphasize. When we have people coming from abroad, that this is different from the Yucatan compared to the rest of the country, because this is the reason why, as you had mentioned before, the Maya descendants didn't disappear. And you're right, because we're here. We're the outcome when Spaniards came, and over the time we mixed. So we still have the presence. We still have a very strong presence of Mayan descendants. We're looking at 2.3 million of the Yucatan population density, and about 35% still are Maya descendants, which means that we still speak the language, and we still do share our Mayan beliefs and traditions. And Hanal Pishan is one of them.
Nice. Yeah, it's a very beautiful, beautiful time of the year. So, and there's this unique ritual that I have been to a couple of times now. I'm sure you have, and I know you've heard of it, in Pomuch.
Campeche.
Where they do the bone cleaning.
Right.
So what do you know about that?
Well, that's actually been part of the UNESCO World Heritage, because it's been considered that it's the surviving pre-Hispanic tradition, the way of how archaeologists and scholars believe that Mayans would have elaborate and spend time with the beloved ones. And I've been there a couple of times, and yes, but in this time they've been changing a little bit on dates because of people go there and they film. So sometimes they love to see us, but sometimes I'm just saying that sometimes they kind of date, reschedule the dates, but whenever we go there, we're gonna double check that we chose on the correct date, so we could experience that.
And making sure that we're doing it with love and not to be offensive with the local people,
yes.
Of course.
So it's important because throughout the Mayan history, Mesoamerican history as general, we have no other ceremonies or that we could experience, such as the one at Pomuch in Campeche. It's the what I know is that the Maya descendant people who lived in Pomuch, they chose us on these dates, and they go into the graves to clean the clothes, to clean from weeds, from grass around graves. So they paint the shrine, and by doing those you know, experiencing those, you know, thoughts they have, they're actually into the contact with their beloved ones. So that's actually the purpose they have behind.
To still feel in connection
Exactly.
with their spirit.
Exactly.
In a sense of a physical form.
Exactly.
But still having that connection.
Exactly, Sarah. Yes. Because we actually believe that, when we in the Yucatan, we believe most of, not all, but most of, that when we, you know, lose somebody, you know, it's like still lives within us. It's within us, and that's the way I present it in my time. That they're gonna be gone when I'm gone, but they're with me until, you know, I spend this wonderful life experience.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's really beautiful tradition. All of the Day of the Dead, and you know, here Hana Bishan, it's really beautiful because we don't really celebrate, or celebrate is not the right word. Maybe honor is the right word.
Right,
You know, the way
yes.
death and life is part of a cycle.
Exactly.
And it's not the end. It's just connecting to the other side.
Exactly.
And understanding that just because someone leaves our physical world, this realm, plane, they're not gone.
Of course.
And of course it's sad, it's terrible when we lose someone and we can't physically hug them or have that physical connection. But to be able to honor them after they've gone, the way that Mexico does, with the altars and the performances and the face painting and the rituals that are performed around that, connecting with our loved ones that have passed on, and still feeling like you're saying they're still with you.
Right, and with honor, as you had mentioned. Right.
Yeah, it's not Halloween. We're not dressing up and collecting candy and going out for a party. It's a celebration of sense. It's when families get together, gather, and honoring the loved ones that have passed. So it is a sense of a community coming together and remembering those who have passed on, and honoring and sharing that, you know, just because they're not here,
Exactly.
you're still here.
Exactly. Beautiful.
Yeah, it's a beautiful time of the year. So what's one thing that most visitors don't realize about the Maya people or the history of Yucatan that you share with them? Besides it not being a scary, dangerous place to come and visit.
Okay. Well, one thing that I always share to them is that we're not the same as the Aztecs, another important tribe, but who came from northern Mexican states, who they had different, you know, traditions, which one of them they were into warfare. So an important amount of visitors, when they come to the Yucatan, they believe that we were the same, practicing on warfare or human sacrifice. So we tell them that Yucatan is different, you know. The population named Maya groups were pretty much such as, you know, farmers. They were farmers, they were artisans, and they were living their daily life basis. And yes, in very few cases, we have found, you know, painting remains, which would remind us on that these groups were practicing a little bit of human offering, not human sacrifice, human offering, you know. In sometimes offering pain suffering, you know, from the chopping of the cup of the ear, and they believe that would have been related with the earth, rebirth. But that is one clear example that we emphasize, because the other group I mentioned first were actually practicing warfare at their life daily basis.
And more of the human sacrifices and...
Right, yes.
Yeah, interesting.
It is.
Okay, so you kind of spoke on this already. Really, I mean, you answered it already, but how the Maya traditions and history are still alive today.
Still very much alive, and we see it in the huge amount of people speaking, sharing their traditions.
Still in Mayan.
Exactly.
They speak Mayan. If
Exactly.
you get outside of Merida into the smaller
Exactly.
towns,
And
all of the older people definitely still speak Mayan.
right. And actually nowadays I heard on the news that we're gonna have the Maya language is going to be part coming up years, part of our Yucatan state public in their public system. It's gonna be taught,
Oh, in the school system.
in the school system, because so far today
Wow.
it's not been part of, but I think it should have been, because that's, it's pride,
Losing part of the culture.
Exactly. So when we talk about the language, we have to mention on Mexico had, well, in our Mexican constitution we have 69 languages, which 68 came from indigenous tribes. 68 plus the arrival of the Spaniards, it sum up 69 with one. So it's Spanish versus 68 indigenous tribe, languages. So it's important that every part of Mexico, they're going to start, and implementing their indigenous language into the education system, which is very, very important.
Wow, that is super important.
Yes.
What are some other cultural techniques or practices that are kind of getting lost? Like, for instance, here in Yucatan, the henequen production and use of the fibers, and like, what are some other ones that, or maybe even speak on the henequen and what was the importance of the henequen and the practices that may be getting lost in the in the time of everything with fast and phones and
Right.
plastic and
Exactly. I think it's a general, in Mexico it's happening that technology is great. We need technology, but sometimes we also have to, to prevent from, from the extension of the certain historical contemporary Yucatan history, such as the henequen time frame, which it's a very important, part of the Yucatan history, because it impacted, in our history background. And when we had huge land properties, later named haciendas, which, just to give you an idea, one hacienda property, land property, you'll be looking at from 100 to 150 thousands of acres of land. So can you believe that immense land property where they would plant the henequen? So the henequen was our main economical, even name, the golden era, the golden era, especially in the Yucatan state from 1850 to 1950, and which later around the 70s when the oil, the crude, got discovered, then it was part of the which affected onto that particular historical system. But I think we as Mexicans, as a Mexican descendant from the Yucatan, I think both technology and the other field, both are very important. We just need to look for a balance, so we could have a world better. I would think.
Right, where you're bringing the past and the present together,
Exactly.
working together, utilizing both for more balance, because we don't want to lose these old practices.
Exactly.
Because they are still beneficial. I mean, the thing with henequen that speaks to me is what they used to use henequen for, they now use plastic for.
Exactly.
In a lot of ways. So we don't need all plastic. Yes, it's made the world easier, but can we find a way to still utilize fibers, natural fibers, and things like henequen, and find the balance of less plastic waste? And
Right, I agree. And let me just share another point about the henequen industry. It's not gone all the way. We still have these symbols of history into the land properties named haciendas. And we have a town, very important town named Motul, where we have it's called Textiles de Sisal. It's a textile factory in operation, and they've been manufacturing, I heard, on rugs, carpets,
Yep.
and a lot of important, sisal goods, and that's an important thing because among the Yucatecos, they believe that that particular, production, it's already been gone, and it's not gone.
it's not gone, and neither are the Maya.
So, right, exactly.
So, just to clarify, because this is something I don't know, henequen is the plant. Sisal, what is sisal?
Well, thank you for asking that question because sisal, it's actually an existing, so far today, shipping and importing port.
Okay, the beach, the beach
Exactly,
town of Sisal.
exactly, which is found about an hour and a half from the city of Merida.
Mhm.
So we have to go back into the history of Peninsula of Yucatan by saying that Campeche used to be the entering land where Spaniards entered this continent. And for a couple of centuries, they used Campeche harbor, the sea, for import and export. But then in 1865 and around, Campeche got independent from the rest of Peninsula of Yucatan because Yucatan, based on the history background, were benefiting the more compared to Campeche. So that's one of the reasons why they separated.
Ah.
And then Yucatan has a challenge. Where are we going to keep on importing, exporting? So they found on Sisal, the harbor. From there, they started to do the business. And they run the business up to the year 2000.
Really?
When we all started with Puerto Progreso. Puerto Progreso. So going back to the name of it, either is called sisal, because we have the correct name to the organic fiber, as Yucatecos refer to. Because if we ask anybody, where can I see sisal? A Yucatecan people will say, you go to the sea, you go to the beach, but you're not referring to that. You're referring to, you wanted to see the fibers. So the fibers, we refer to them with this word, soskil, S-O-S-K-I-L.
Soskil.
That's the correct word among Yucatecos.
For the plant or for the fibers
for the fiber.
After they've been processed from the plant?
For the fiber, because to the agave species, we called it henequen.
Henequen.
We called it henequen, and the fiber out of the leaves after being processed, soskil. But would have been during the main Yucatan heyday in that period of time when the most demanded, country were actually European countries, especially France, France. So everything which got exported had the seal on, reading sisal. So they thought it was the name of that
of the
good
plant. Okay.
Right. And it became very famous around the world. So even to many other Mexicans who come to visit us in this time, they say, where could we see sisal? So we just explain them what I have explained to you, which is very interesting.
That is very interesting because I didn't know that story.
Yes.
So very nice, very good. Well, Russell, thank you so much.
Thank you so much,
time.
Sara.
as you can tell, he's definitely local because he's not has one little bit of sweat, and I'm dripping sweat over here, the foreigner who's dying, who needs a little bit of air conditioning. So I'm the one who needs a break, but Russell, I really love working with Russell because he is very thorough on his descriptions and sharing, like you've noticed with the history and the culture, and he's very knowledgeable on the archaeological, I gotta say this right, archaeological sites. So thank you so much again, Russell, for your time.